Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and today we are looking at Pushover. This is a 1993 game, I believe, that was for PC first and then lost its Quavers branding, which Quavers used to be a salted cracker brand that is now owned by a company called Walkers. I think it's more of a British thing, and there's not a big difference there, but it lost the Quavers branding when it went to the Super NES. This is a very interesting little puzzle game in that it is a worker ant pushing over specific little dominoes. That's what these little yellow bricks are. You may be able to tell this is a very, very old DOS game. 256 colors at best, sound blaster audio at best. But it does have kind of a wonderful little charm to it. You can see the credits are actually running on the start screen. There's 100 little puzzles to solve here, and I definitely have nostalgia of playing this before. Now, there is a code system, and I'm just going to be playing with a keyboard, and there's, I believe, no mouse support at all, or if there is mouse support, it is pretty rudimentary that you would have to set up at the very beginning of the game. There's also joystick support, but this is hardly a game where you'd want to play with like an Xbox One controller and an analog stick. The support they're talking about is more closer to a simple D-pad. So normally you'd have a code to type in a number. It started at 512, so if we just hit OK here, it says incorrect code. So 512 must be the first code, or this must be some kind of like copy protection code that has just been bypassed on the Steam version. So yeah, I feel like there might have been a cutscene first. So there's a couple of things on this to note. These are standard dominoes. They push over. This is your final domino you want to push over. If you activated it right now, you would fail. You press in a direction and press spacebar, I believe, to reset. We have to hit escape. So you hit spacebar to pick up a domino. You then walk where you're going to put it, and you put it there. There definitely was a cutscene here that's missing in this. Let's see. Quit. Let's see what happens if we just type in 0. Okay. So there was a cutscene. It doesn't seem to be playing here, or maybe we'll see some cutscenes later on. This is very simplistic setup to start you going. So you've gained a puzzle, you completed the puzzle, you gained a token. And when you get a token, you get a code that is shown to you from these other worker ants. And then they crawl up from their little, very rocky ant hill up to the top, and you're back to the main menu. You can tell there's some really, really low frame rate in this. It's copyrighted in 1992 by a company called Red Notion. So the next part is this one won't fall over, and you don't want things to fail. Now here's a little trick. You have to push all of them. So you have one token left. You can use it to reset before the push, or you can just replay the entire puzzle. So, man, oops, I am not paying enough attention. If this is not your thing, if you don't want to do little domino puzzles, then you're not going to like this game. It's just that simple. If it is your thing, if this does look interesting, This would be a game that in a modern era you could put on a cell phone fairly easily. I'm surprised nobody has ever really made any domino puzzle games since then. There have been a couple of like VR games that have tried to have something similar to that happen, but they never really seemed like they were polished enough or had enough features for a modern game. That might be the problem in a nutshell. This one will keep rolling. You will see it will just flip over itself over and over again until it hits another domino. So you have to push all the dominoes. Some of the puzzles do require you to get in the right position later on. But yeah, this is incredibly basic. Although, oddly, if you were to compare this to like a low effort asset flip game, this still actually has way more thought put into it and way more gameplay. Now this one will go upward, magically float upward. This is like one of the few things that you really couldn't simulate in reality in a domino push thing. There was a brief time in my childhood when domino sets were fairly popular, or at least they were heavily advertised. I'm not sure how really popular they were, but they definitely were a thing, and it's not super surprising that they stopped being a thing. I think this creates a bridge. Otherwise, I don't know how you would solve that. Yep, it just magically brings in the tile so you can cross over. We're just going to try and rush through these fairly quickly. This one splits in half. So every level gives you some new thing that you have to learn in this first tutorial section. You have a timer that's counting down. I don't know why they put the specific timer there, because honestly this game would work a lot better if it wasn't limiting your time and just letting you think, and it's not like you can do anything. This one explodes and makes a hole, so when I push it, it will blow up that, and then the thing will fall over, and you have to double tap in a specific direction to fall so that you don't just accidentally fall off the ledge, which is more than half the games do in modern time. Yeah, I don't know if you'd want a like tilt ability on the cell phone to be integrated, or a switch ability like that. You will fall to your death, by the way, if you fall too far. So you probably want to go this way and then go this way, and notice how it keeps you dizzy for a while, so you have to account for that also. And then he won't do the I did it symbol until you've basically stopped putting inputs in. What does this one do? This one makes a bridge, doesn't it? So I think what they want you to do in this case is push that, and that way it tries to make a bridge. And then if you just mess up, you can just fall off the edge and die. Okay. So it's sometimes a little bit hard to get where you want to go. And there, if you drop two bricks on top of each other, you'll break the dominoes in odd fashion. Oh, I know what you do. It's a little sneaky on this one. We're starting to run into some real challenge, but for the first dozen or so, you can speed run through this fairly quickly. You just needed to jump off the other side. so that you know where to position yourself. Now, there was a very popular game of Lemmings, whole series of Lemmings games, where you did somewhat a similar game in simplicity, while a very different game in what you're actually trying to achieve. In Lemmings, you're simply trying to guide the lemmings to safety and to the exit without letting too many of them die, where here you're only guiding your main character and having to push over dominoes. And after a certain amount of these, you should see a cutscene. This is running on DOSBox, so the trick here is that is delayed. The diagonal piece is delayed. So what you want to do is remove this piece, and it's only delayed if something hits it. So if I push it directly, he'll just exert more force. So that buys you time, and by buying you time, you can run just right through it and clip through the floor so that you're below it. You've found a packet of Colin's quivers. They're curly. So here's a cutscene, but we missed the intro cutscene, where he lost all of these. So yeah, you're going in this anthill, getting these packets of, I thought they were crackers, but I guess maybe they're potato chips. And so now we're in a different tile set, which, you know, a low effort asset flip game would in no way have ever bothered to do that. I think I have to set this one here, push this, and then that splits the path. Nope, not quite right. And what happens when time runs out? Nothing. You just are, I guess, under par at that point. And maybe you have to use a token to beat the level at that point. See, I think maybe it's like this. I can see that, particularly even on old monitors, you might have a trouble lining things up, and so there might be a usefulness for some levels of grid ability. Now, you'll have several solutions like this where it looks like you've done something wrong, or it's taken, but you've actually done it fairly right. I will also say it seems fairly obvious that there is a possibility here of a lot of these puzzles not really being able to get the time score. Like, I can remember when I was much younger, this probably being a little bit more of a challenge than it should have been in some of the later levels. And we know there's 100 puzzles, so if we get 50 tokens in the first 50, we theoretically could just jump all the way through the last levels, even if they take longer. So you have like a full minute here. It probably wouldn't hurt you too bad to start somewhere. They've given you a full collection of puzzles. But I actually know what this is. You push this here, and then that's going to collect all the other dominoes. There's no really great explanation as to why you need to collect all the other dominoes. Not quite right. Or why you need to knock them over, or why a sugar ant or carpenter ant would be particularly good at collecting dominoes. Let's see. Is it faster to walk all the way down here, down the ladder, come over here, push this, or is it faster to just fall down the edge a couple times? But yeah, you would want some kind of gameplay mechanic, and having a little ant push dominoes over is as good of a story as anywhere. It's kind of shocking that there wasn't a tie-in to a game like this when the movie Ants came out, or when the movie let's see, I don't know a way that you beat this. You've just got too many explosive things. If you drop an explosive on another one, it just breaks. So I think the easiest thing to do would be to simply have this at the very edge, have this over here, and then hope that this is in the right position, but it probably isn't. Yeah. So as we're moving forward, it's definitely showing us that there is just an increased number of things that are out of order, or there are just multiple solutions potentially. Well, actually, we still want the other one to roll, so push things even further back. Yeah, the tile sets here aren't really adding much, but they are nice. It goes to show that they're trying to put some polish on it. This probably was a $20 game, which would be closer to a $45 game when it came out. And for 100 puzzles, nowadays you would pretty much expect that to be a free game. And yeah, this would almost certainly, in modern perspective, be a free game. This is one that has to be hit twice. Also, if you're holding the levitating one and you fall off a ledge, it flies upward and doesn't swing, and it always swings in the direction that you would expect it to swing. Oh. Oops. So that was not one that you have to hit twice, that was one that disappears. And for that reason, it didn't work. But I think you can just push these, and it will disappear, and that's fine. This should work this time. I don't see why this isn't working. See, you failed, you died. Well, we can try this, I suppose. Don't know why this would change much. it's a game of very few words, and a modern version of this would have more talking go to it. I don't know why that worked. Perhaps the final piece has to fall down completely and not lean a little bit, or other pieces can lean. That's about the only thing I could get from it. This totally would be a game that the instructions and the characters' names and all of that would be said only in the dialogue written on the back of the floppy disk that you got it on. And there definitely were a lot of games. I had to press backwards and to the right there for that to work. And that's what happens when it doesn't hit something. Okay. And the one line does what? That's split in half. We'll see. Oh, it makes a bridge, which is exactly what we needed it to do, is bounce back from the delayed reaction diagonal one, make a bridge so we could make it to the exit, which I hadn't even gotten to that point as far as thinking about what it was going to do. This really is a nostalgia trip, but it definitely, like a lot of old games, makes it fairly questionable as far as what here really would you absolutely insist on playing if this was the first time you were playing. Is this a game that is accessible to new people, or is this only accessible to people who have played it when it was first out? I think a modernization of this game would be fairly easy to do. You could probably just take the exact same codes, the exact same puzzles, and mess with the interface a little bit so you can pan and zoom on the cell phone and try your hardest to kind of ensure a quality visuals happened. Alright, so this I believe should be here. So then that just is leaving me with a couple of dominoes that need to be filled first. And he just put the thing down automatically, because I cannot handle any of the stuff above. So what I think I have to do is do this, and then do this, then run over here and grab this one. I can't drop down because if I do, I will never be able to get back up. So I think I needed to do that. Which then that creates this timer at the bottom that will just take its sweet time to activate. Now everything's down. So we did it. But we didn't do it in time. So let's just go ahead and use a token to skip. And let's take a moment to let it roll up to the top and show what it looks like there. We should have a Quaver packet on the bottom of the screen now collected, and there should really not be an indicator that we quit or did anything, or that we got a different code because we used a token. I guess maybe the codes would have to save the amount of tokens you have. Of course, this is such an old game, it's not like there's going to be achievements integrated if they're just reselling something like this. But there is definitely some beauty, I would say, for just having these old games on Steam. It certainly wouldn't be hard to go and find a free way to download these kinds of products that are just so old, and I doubt Ocean even exists, or that there is anybody that works at Ocean that actually is a creative person and not just sitting on the licenses of something they never created in the first place. So I wouldn't feel particularly too bad if somebody pirated a game like this. But alright, I missed one. Just having everything in one place is so nice, and I totally would prefer to just have it like I did. I got this on Steam for that very specific reason. This will be an interesting race. I've got to get down faster than it. Oh, actually, I don't, do I? I didn't have to race at all, because I have to fall down anyways. But it is also probably a game that sold, almost certainly wasn't free. It probably sold for $3 or $4, if not $5 or $10, and they've not really put any effort into it. They're using the DOSBox emulator, which is free and open source software, I believe. Or at least it's open source software. So they're not paying a license or really doing anything to it. DOSBox is a very generic emulator. It's not specialized to specifically play pushover files or scale up the graphics in any way or do anything really at all. Okay. That's not gonna work. So we need this one up here at least. Of course, if I start looking at every single possible combination and just work at it in a slower process, then I'll fail miserably. Interesting. If I go here, nothing can kind of happen. I need the bottom pieces to fall faster. How can I make the bottom pieces fall faster and the top pieces move slower? They already have as much delay as one would imagine. The only thing I could really do is something like that to speed up the process. Let's see, let's watch this again. Bounce, goes, cross. That did it. But once again, that took too long. But once again, it's not really worth it to not just use the tokens and keep moving. And this is definitely for a game, a PC that would have not inherently had any save files. The floppy disk that this would have been playing on probably would be write protected, and just for safety's sake, and that probably would cause it to... I have no idea how this is going to work. I think I may have to go in circles a couple times. That would cause the need for you to be able to write down codes, unless they were just initially planning on this being a Super NES game, and then the Super NES itself wouldn't have any save files. So I can save myself some time by starting with this heavy push and then coming over here and then failing again because the dominoes crashed. So you want to put this here, then take this with you this way. Very cartoony effects, but very simplistic sound effects with not terrible background music, but just kind of looping background music. I would expect kind of way more than 100 puzzles in this, and maybe some kind of cooldown timer or something that would just have daily puzzles. A lot of cell phone games, which this really would be in that category of a mobile game, a lot of those games have that problem in which they don't make sense if you just burn through them really fast. You can have an experience that way, but if you do choose to have an experience that way, you after the fact are going to play the game and be done with it in a relatively short amount of time. Let's see, if we fall down here, we're still fine. You could have a fall system where you can only fall a certain number of times before your health drains out. That would be very video gamey, to give you like 3 hearts, and then as you progress and get the collectibles, you get more hearts, and then you can fall further or far more, fall at a different distance. Alright. So we are now in the second interface of art, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this art actually was made by Ocean for a different game and it's just getting reused. I imagine very few people would even recognize that. So it's going to hit the red one, bounce off, and then hit the other one, and then we're going to have a stair step, and the stair step is going to do it. But I feel like maybe because I used a token, didn't get the quaver. Interesting. So we may not have a perfect game here, which I'm not writing down the solutions, so I don't know how you would really go back to do that. Honestly, if the easiest thing to do would just be to play the game the way you'd want to play it, that's probably going to be too far of a jump and you're going to die. Be a little skeleton, looks more like a rabbit than a well, I have no idea where you would take this. I mean, you can push this all you want. That's gonna fall down, then that's gonna crash, and then that's gonna knock the whole thing over. I see it now. There is a splitter here. Not here, but here. And splitters are the only thing that the dominoes can crash into. Nope, not quite the solution. They want you to take this down here. Then they want you to run all the way back up here. Then they want you to come over here. And then they want you to drop down there. And just hope that the timing is right. And it is. So now we're at level 25. Now we've got some timers that we could add. Got a splitter. Got things all over the place. Like, so you push this potentially, and then you run ahead, and you maybe make it that far. But the place to go is what you missed. So the trick is to simply put this. Take note, it won't let you put the dominoes in front of the door. So all you need to do is build yourself some more time so that you can reach this point. And then everything else is just set up. I would say, from what I recall, this is pretty much the totality of the dominoes. I don't know how you get into any more variety than what there is. It would require someone to be fairly creative to think of other dominoes that did other things. What they did in the pushover plastic domino things, the little domino toys that were being advertised when I was a kid, were not even really dominoes. They were just pieces of plastic, and they had a lot of like pre-built sets and little, like almost like amusement park attraction type content that you could also do. And they may even have thrown in a little bit of some marble stuff on top of it. I know at the same time there were advertisements for marble toys also. Toys used to be fairly simplistic. So I wonder if you wouldn't do that and have like specific mechanisms and machines, windmills, fireworks, things that would happen when certain dominoes got pushed over. I know you probably would want to take this into like a 3D realm sometimes and not just a flat 2D image. That is certainly something that they wouldn't have been able to do originally in this game. Let's see. I can't put one on the step. I can put one on that step. Can't put one on that step though. So I doubt this is the solution. Nope, because it just crashed on itself. What they want me to do is I don't know what they want me to do. Honestly, seems kind of like they want me to push it again and then run ahead and then grab this and then grab this and then somehow get it into that position, which I don't know how I'd get into that position that fast. Let's see. I believe that's the move. I mean, I can push this back one step, and that'll give me maybe a second. But yeah, you just don't have enough time to move anything. And I don't think you ever have more than one push in a puzzle. Well, let's see. We're going about 40 minutes, and I think I've used up all my brain juice, as it were. Would there be a big difference if I did this? Like, I could stand right here and it'll just crash. If I moved everything over and I stood there, I might be able to fall downward, but it really wouldn't do anything. Let's just use a token. No, because that only brings you back to the push, so you still... I just wasted a token there. You could do that. And I could do that. And kind of means that this also doesn't work. Yeah, there definitely were PC games of olden times that did not run quite right. People had their things. Alright, so you can pick up a delayed one, and I think it will fall over? No. Yeah, there definitely were some PC games that just were not timed the correct way that you would expect, or in a fashion that is reasonable. And this is adding a high level of action that you really wouldn't want in a puzzle game. Alright, so grab that, put that down. That's how you do it. But that was particularly tougher than it should have been. And if this somehow still doesn't count, I'd be fairly frustrated. Congratulations, you completed the puzzle. Yeah, let's do 30 if we can, and maybe 33. That way we'd have 3 episodes, although in all realisticness, probably a lot less than that. I think this was the solution. It's just a matter of this explosive piece. Oh, I see where I was supposed to put that. Now it's easier just to hit escape. So, yeah. Press this, pick up this, take this, wait for the one to not fall down. You put it down automatically. Well, that's a little unfair too. There definitely is a issue with just like the brutality of old NES games and Super NES games. Just old games in general, that they were intentionally often designed to be unwinnable, and they often were just poorly designed otherwise. And yeah, you're starting to get to the point where it's a little crazy. It's a little too much. See, this one needs to go that way, which tells me We need something up at the top there, which we won't see, which means we need something here, then explosive. Yeah, I think this is fine. Unless we need to make multiple changes. We do need to make multiple changes. It's getting overly complicated. Let's see. Like this one goes this way, hits nothing, goes that way, hits nothing, goes that way, hits that. And then this still needs to be moved. And how can we get the final part of this done? By maybe just moving that. Is that all that needs to change? No, not really. And you can't move the final goal piece at all. So it's something more akin, I think, to... Well, this does need to be here. But these two need to be gone. They need to be moved way over here. I guess there is kind of a blessing in disguise in the fact that these levels have timers on them, but we've already seen a couple of them where it really isn't worth it by modern standards to try and get things done in less than a minute. They're really stretching here to make this more of a game. There's another game that was made that was an advertisement for Skittles, so it was just kind of a weird fantasy game that had Skittles thrown into it. We found a packet of Collins Quavers. They're curly. So here we have a animation. I'm still fairly certain there was an animation at the beginning where you lost the Quavers that didn't play. There also was a setup screen that I skipped over. So let's scroll up here, and I think that's as good of a point as any to end this recording, and we'll start back in the next recording. So yeah, you can see we missed one, Quavers. You would get one every 10 if you don't use any tokens. If you do use any tokens, then you're out of luck, and there's, I don't believe, any way to adjust that or fix that other than to just go back to the one place that you would want to, you last didn't use a token and solve that puzzle without using a token, which odds are by the time you're at level 90 you probably will run into multiple puzzles that it's not realistic for that to really happen, that it's just highly unlikely that you could have that occur. I definitely have nostalgia for this game, but I definitely think you would, in a modern format, have a lot more puzzles, a lot more visual polish, probably make it a mobile game, have something in here so you can't just in 3 hours play an entire experience, have maybe a level design where you can make your own design levels. That's totally missing. If you were to compare this something like Super Mario Maker, it really pales in comparison. It's just so simplistic. You'd probably go 3D, and like a direct sequel to Pushover in 3D would make a lot of sense. On the other hand, there's really no reason why you would use this license of a carpenter ant that we don't even know the name of. You could easily have a domino pushing game that is your own internal IP, and have some 2D levels, have some 3D levels, have the graphics look really good. You could probably do it very easily with Unity and port it over. You could probably buy a lot of pre-made Unity assets and have that work well for you. I'm trying to stall to see if maybe the intro video plays if you sit on the start screen for a very long time. I don't know how long that would be. The reason why they're moving and showing the credits is actually as a screensaver, because this would have been old monitors that were highly susceptible to screen burn-in. Not to say that modern cell phones aren't pretty susceptible to screen burn-in also, if you leave them running long enough. But yeah, it seems like there's quite a lot of time. You would have to go through the entirety of the credits, and looking at the credits, there's not a ton of people that worked on the game, probably about 5 people. But oddly, this was competitive for the 1992 era. This was a 5 out of 5 by one reviewer, according to Wikipedia. So just like a perfect game. And in all fairness, it is doing something very different than Doom clones or any other kind of old DOS games. So it probably is a perfect game in the fact that it is the only game in its class, and there's not a lot to compare it to. But also, it certainly didn't inspire a lot of clones, whereas there's hundreds upon hundreds of Doom clones, so it didn't catch the people's attention. And that there's probably a high level of more rich men in their 20s that had PCs and messed with PCs, so they probably would be less likely to want to play a puzzle game. And PCs at the time were so expensive, it was not as likely that you would let a kid touch it at all or buy a game specifically for a kid unless it was sold specifically as educational, and this is not quite labeled as an educational game, although it could be. It's more of an advertisement thing. I think Ocean may have put out several educational games, but yeah. And I don't think this was a game that originally, at least, you would have gotten for free. Not at least not in the United States. Like, that would have made a lot of sense, though, if this had been kind of like a Chex Quest game, which was given away to people who bought Chex Mix. But yeah, Quavers. I don't believe those potato chips exist anymore, and I don't know if they ever existed in the United States. I imagine every name that's being listed here in the credits is someone who has long since left the industry. And personally, I think maybe some of these industry veterans would have done a lot better if they came back to the video game industry and set the next generation straight as far as the kind of games to make and the kind of ways to do business. But I imagine they've got better things to do with their time. Alright, well, we'll end this recording after the credits end there. See that it all rolls out. Now they're putting in the copyright. Yeah. If there was a cutscene that was going to play, it would have to be after not touching the keyboard at all, after the credits had completely run all the way through, because they're at different odds here, where one group of people, the lawyers, want the copyright and the credits to play, where a different group of people would want to run a screenshot and show a cutscene. Yeah. Yeah, so if there is a cutscene that was supposed to play, it was either skipped over with that initial code, or it's gonna play after the credits play multiple times, which that's no good. It's a really weird menu, even for its day, to have to put in a code at the beginning to get into any level is really weird. But there was all kinds of weird copy protection, so people couldn't just copy the floppy disks over, although they were almost all defeated very easily. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist or a gift card, or you can support me through the link down below to Patreon. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.